All right, we are live. Welcome into Short Yardage, presented by For Fantasy's Sake. I'm here. I'm Michael Sicoli, and I'm here with Nick Grohl. How are you doing today?
I'm in sunny San Francisco, California. Just a little family trip out here, but ready to talk some ball because we're diving in.
You're going to say we're diving in. I'm going to take a second to say how jealous I am of your San Francisco weather. I am boiling on the East Coast on Long Island right now, and it's unfathomable over here.
We're getting that nice little ocean breeze, 65 and sunny. Nice little wind. It feels like football weather actually. So speaking of that, we got our first week of preseason, like for real.
We did, yeah. We had the Steelers Cowboys Hall of Fame game last week that we intruded on with our Short Yardage show last week, but this week is the real thing. This week, even tonight, right? Tonight, 30 minutes from now, we got Steelers Eagles, Steelers showing up again, and Washington Patriots. So my biggest question here with the preseason, because I think this is what everyone's been waiting for football. Everyone wants to watch, but what are we watching for? What are you watching for?
So there's certain moments, right, when you can kind of see, like, if you have a question about who the ones are, right? You can kind of tell when the coaches puts that squad in. So they're usually near the goal line, 2-minute situations. Those, like, that's they want to see, like, your Najee Harris, right? They want to see what he looks like with the ones. They want to see what he looks like getting a ton of carries a game. And I mean, they showed us pretty early on that he's the bell cow. If there was any doubt, I don't think there was. I still don't understand why he falls through the third round in ADP, because I think he has every bit as upside to be the RB1 overall as anybody else. I mean, offensive line questionable.
Box score, Nick. He was only 3.1 yards per carry. That's not good enough.
Nah, I mean, that's a noisy stat. That's a noisy stat. Come on, man.
Exactly.
But give me the volume. Give me the 350 plus touches. Those are the guys who end up scoring almost 400 fantasy points.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to touch on as my first point to this was with guys like Najee Harris and with guys throughout this preseason, you should not be trusting box scores because not all targets are made equal. Not all rushes are made equal. We saw Najee Harris break plenty of tackles there and get extra yards that he had no right to do. Now, you can say, wow, that's not good offensive line play, and that's true. But he was also playing without his two starting tackles, and there's context to everything in the preseason. If you don't watch it, don't be the guy who just goes to the box score and tries to make a conclusion based on the numbers you see.
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest points I want to say.
You should go into most preseason games not really expecting to gather a whole lot from them. However, there are little things here and there that are signal rather than noise. And I think that that's kind of what we're here for, to kind of pick those things out and present them to the people. So, so throughout this preseason, I mean, for example, like tonight, Steelers versus Eagles, it seems like Jalen Hurts is going to get some snaps. That'll be interesting to see. It's kind of like he's going to be a starting quarterback either for the Eagles or the Texans. I think that's pretty much where we're at with him. But aside from that, I don't know that we can really gather a whole lot from that game. But Washington versus Patriots, it'll be nice to see. I'm sure we'll see Mac Jones tonight, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'll be interested definitely to watch that Patriots situation under center. I'll be curious to see how N'Keal Harry looks, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not holding out any hope, but he has looked pretty good. N'Keal Harry, the 2018 first round pick, who has done quite literally nothing in his entire career. But there's a route there. There's a route there. I'm interested in seeing that.
I'm rooting for the guy, right? I don't want to see anyone fail, especially after being a first round pick. That would be a waste. But the thing is he did request a trade, and after that happened, you started to see a little bit more positive stuff come out of for the camp. So I think that might be a little bit of the Patriots feeding some positivity to the media to kind of maybe pump his value up a little bit. If that's the case, you might see him get absolutely fed tonight if they're trying to show that he has something in the tank still. So
No,
I
yeah,
mean, it could
my
be a self-fulfilling
expectations.
prophecy.
My expectations are basement level. But the other and final biggest point I want to point out with these preseason games, I want to take us back a little bit. We got Terry McLaurin's rookie year. Sometimes you have to watch for what's not going on the field. Terry McLaurin was not on the field as a rookie. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but that was a semi storyline that slipped through the cracks. We saw week 1 go by, we saw week 2 go by of the preseason, week 3, and we saw a little bit. But Terry McLaurin was not out there, and the reason he wasn't is because the coaching staff saw what they needed to see. So if you don't see someone out there, and it's not because of injury or because of any negative reason that you can find, it's a big tell to me. Like what's in me? I saw Juju Smith-Schuster not play last week. That's weird to me, to be honest. That was a little bit weird to me. But there's nothing. He's not hurt. I think they just know what Juju is. They don't need him to prove anything. They need Claypool to prove that he's not going to drop the balls that he saw. He's also only a sophomore. They need Deontay to stop dropping balls. They know what they have in Juju. That was a little bit interesting to me.
It'll be one thing you want to look out for with Juju is when we do see him in the preseason, is he lining up outside at all? He hasn't really showed in his career yet that he can really win outside. I mentioned reception perception in the last pod about separation and all that fun stuff, but he does really well in zone in the big slot role. But I just him moving outside more is not good. So if you see that, I would maybe fade him a little bit. But another one to look out for before we move on tonight is on Washington, Diami Brown. Pretty explosive player out of North Carolina. Doesn't have too bad a draft capital, but I mean, with Curtis Samuel hurt, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. He could step in right away, and he could be Fitzpatrick's guy, one of the guys he just feeds.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it. And I'll throw out another name that I'm really excited to watch tonight. And he didn't play last week, a little bit hurt. Pat Freiermuth. I am so excited for the Penn State product. Backup tight end for the Steelers. He's right number 2 on the depth chart. Was a little bit dinged up last week, so didn't play. Not sure how much time he'll see tonight, but if he's out there, that's another. You're watching Diami Brown and watching Pat Freiermuth with Eric Ebron on that contract year. So I think right there, that's honestly all we need to talk for the preseason. The biggest takeaway for me: have a good time. We're enjoying football again. Football's back. I'm hoping for no injuries, but I'm just really excited to watch some football again. And that isn't the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, and also sweat these depth charts and make sure when the depth charts come out that if they agree with your priors, you praise them. And if they don't, you come up with every excuse about why they're stupid. So let's dive into some of those. You got any you want to take a look at, Mike?
No, that's a perfect segue. And I think the one depth chart that's been giving people fits all season, it's giving me fits even now. The New York Jets. All right, so this is an offense that doesn't project to be a high-scoring unit. That means you have to pick your shot and you have to hit with that shot because you can't count on touchdowns. And honestly, I'm not sure if you can count on volume either because we have no idea how the split's going to go in this first-year system coming from San Francisco that spreads the ball around. So just taking a look at the depth chart, the running back situation has already flip-flopped 3 times since we made our little show doc over here. Michael Carter opened as the 4, now he's the 2. P. Ryan was the 2, now he's the 3. The one thing that's been constant is Tevin Coleman as the 1, and that, honestly, I mean, it's no surprise, but that's not exciting to anyone. So what are you seeing in the Jets right now?
So a couple things with these depth charts is most of them are generated by PR interns. Most of the time just from what they're watching in practice, without any input from the actual decision makers on the team. For example, like Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans, someone asked him about the unofficial depth chart, and he said, "What are you talking about? I didn't even know." So take him with a grain of salt, but think about this. If I'm a PR intern, what is my goal? To generate buzz, right? So what these are good at signaling is what the team is identifying as an uncertain scenario that people might be excited about learning more about, right? Because the more clicks you get on your depth chart, that's more exposure for your team. So the Jets have what we would like an ambiguous or unclear or murky backfield. And rather than just write this off and be like, oh, no one knows anything, it's not worth my time, I'm not going to invest in it. These are the backfields that if you get right, you get a lot of leverage there. So for me, it's kind of already priced in. People are starting to see the writing on the wall, but Michael Carter is going to be the 1A. I wrote him up in my sleepers article. You can get him probably in the 10th round. I doubt he'll stay there. I think he'll probably sneak into the 8th round by the time late August drafts come through. But yeah, a 1A in basically a Shanahan offense, right? They're going to run the ball upwards of 500 plus times. The 1A, give me 40% of the touches and the pass down work. Like, that's plenty for a guy in the 8th or 9th round.
And on the topic of Michael Carter, because I'm not as confident, just because I know he can catch the ball, but I'm not sure if he's going to be a great pass catcher, given his limited athletic profile. That, at least from what I saw when I scouted him out, and he's already shooting up ADP. So I'm going to give you a few names. I'm curious on what you're going to say here. So Melvin Gordon or Michael Carter?
Michael Carter.
Okay, Michael Carter's currently – Melvin Gordon's going one spot ahead of him in both ADP and running back position. So, and going right behind Michael Carter is David Johnson, who that's a murky backfield right there. Actually, everything I just said, I cannot trust this fantasy pros ADP right now. But it's interesting. I'm in on him for the 9th round, 10th round maybe, but 10th round will obviously take the shot. But I project him to be the 1B. I think Tevin Coleman will still have that backfield as long as he's healthy for carries. It's just who gets the receiving work, because I think Coleman gets the limited goal line work. I think he gets these first, second down carries. If Michael Carter can get third down work, you can talk me into that. But it's a low-scoring team, so he needs to catch the ball.
Yeah. So I guess maybe I'm giving him credit for a little bit more of receiving production in college. This is Michael Carter. I mean, he wasn't just getting peppered with targets, but he did rush for a lot more. So he can kind of be that workhorse. I think he kind of has that reputation of he can catch. I just think he has a ton of upside, because I'm not scared of Tevin Coleman. I'm not scared of even Elijah Mitchell, who's someone else they drafted. Oh, no, that was the 49ers.
That was the 49ers, but
yes.
Yeah. But the Jets went from one of the worst offensive lines to easily one of the best. Well, not easily one of the best, but easily one of the most improved. And drafting Vera Tucker in the first, Mekhi Becton in his second year. Although, if you follow Connor Hughes on Twitter, Jets beat reporter for The Athletic, it is just a constant stream of Carl Lawson beating Mekhi Becton. But that's for my Jets friends out there. But that's honestly, do we even need to talk about the receivers for the Jets? I guess we do, because we also saw. Yeah,
it's easy.
It's easy.
Oh, it's easy. So Mims, dust.
Yes, Mims is dust.
He lost a lot of weight. I saw this is when
20 pounds due to salmon.
Yeah, salmon. So that's just, I don't know, his agent might be putting something out because he might demand a trade. I saw that. But Mims is dust. I think Crowder is going to be another great value this year. He's going to be a security blanket right there, settle in the soft spot. I know Elijah Moore, a lot of people are excited about him. I think what he's going to do is he's going to push outside until Crowder's out of town, unfortunately. I just think Crowder's too good at that already. And maybe Elijah Moore. I really like Elijah Mitchell right now. But Elijah Moore has a little bit more of explosiveness and a little bit of unknown, maybe untapped upside that they want to see on the field, especially with Zach Wilson, who loves throwing a contested ball. So Elijah Moore, I definitely think he's going to work into 3 wide receiver sets pretty often. But, I mean, he did just kind of go down with an injury, I believe, a quad injury. Which,
yep.
Again, no one seems super pessimistic about any of the injuries in camp right now, because there is a lot of time still. I mean, we got a guy breaking his foot. Now he's projected to come back week 1, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, Elijah Moore and then Keelan Cole is probably going to be there until they can bring Elijah Moore along and get him healthy. So to me, it's pretty clear. Do we want to be invested in it? Maybe. I don't know. How's that defense going to be this year? I know you were at camp there recently.
Yeah. No, so I was at for those who don't know, I went to Jets training camp on Saturday, that viral day when Zach Wilson was horrific. The entire offense was anemic. It was terrible. But the few takeaways I had was it confirms everything I thought about Elijah Moore. And now he's dealing with that minor quad injury, so I don't think we'll see him this weekend. But I'm still under the assumption we'll see him next week. Corey Davis is a very large man, the biggest receiver they have by far, and he won several contested balls that weren't perfect throws by Wilson, but weren't terrible. Corey Davis found a way to get his hands on that and ripped it away. Keelan Cole, Denzel Mims was working with the second and third teams, never touched the first team. Michael Carter was working with the second, third teams, rarely touched the first team as well. But that's a rotation that's to be expected. Elijah Moore's, I dare say, is the best receiver on this team, but he's a rookie and he's paired with a rookie quarterback. Better than Corey
Davis already.
I love Corey Davis, but Elijah Moore is they're completely different players, but like Elijah Moore will be uncoverable, and we'll be talking about him as uncoverable within a few years. But Moore is an interesting dart throw. I'm a little bit worried that all the publicity is going to push him up to the point where I won't draft him, because at the end of the day, he's still a rookie as the wide receiver 2, as I projected target at best, maybe 3 behind Crowder, who I agree is, we haven't talked about Crowder at all as a community. That he'll see PPR value. But if Moore's ADP keeps climbing, I might find myself hands off. If he exits the double digits, I definitely will. Corey Davis is probably would be my most jet as a volume play that Zach Wilson seems to have found a pretty good chemistry with. Sorry, go.
What I would say is, I mean, on sleeper, Corey Davis still does go ahead of Elijah Moore. Maybe that's recent. No, yeah, that's pretty recent. This might have not.
Corey Davis, you're saying?
Yeah. So according to my let me take a look here. Corey Davis is going like right around pick 100, and on Underdog, I know Elijah Moore goes before Corey Davis because people were really buying into that camp hype. I think with the injury, he kind of will slide back, of course, rightly so. It should have been like that the whole time. I think Elijah Moore will end the year as the clear most talented, explosive guy we're excited about moving forward. But I think Corey Davis is just going to get it done. Great guy to be your wide receiver 4, and you get a guy who should get a lot of jump balls this year, and he's good after the catch. Kind of broke out late, but yeah. So. Yeah.
I think he's got the trust of his rookie quarterback, but honestly, I think that's more than enough Jets talk for a lifetime. But stock is up for the Jets, man. They have a lot of pieces in play that are really bright.
You can't really go down from where they were. So
no, they can't go down. I mean, they were 2. I doubt they're going to be 1. They were picking number 2. I don't think they're going to be picking 1 anytime soon.
They'll win some. They should win some games.
Yeah, no, they'll be a really interesting team to hit or miss their win-loss. That'll be 2022 will be a very telling year for the Jets to me. But I think we should move on to Baltimore, who has it's a mess in Baltimore. We got Marquise Brown dealing with injuries. We got Rashad Bateman now is going to be out potentially through September and into October is what I saw, around a week 4 type of return.
Yeah,
which is catastrophic to me.
I've seen a pretty wide range of sentiment on that. Some people are like, September's great, he's gonna miss a few weeks, no problem. Other people I saw tweeting about okay, they have a week 8 bye, maybe we see him after that.
And that range is it makes my sleeper pick of Rashad Bateman, or he might have been my must draft, and makes it obsolete. But the depth chart, the biggest thing I wanted to touch on, because I think the wide receivers deserve a little bit of talk, but I don't want people overreacting to the co-starters of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I know some people will. I know some people will say, I thought this was going to be Dobbins' year. It still can be. It probably still will be, according to myself. But Gus Edwards is going to be involved. Gus Edwards is a talented player. The coaching staff likes Gus Edwards. They paid Gus Edwards. They extended him. They did not need to do that. J.K. Dobbins is going to be heavily used, and he'll be the 1A. Hopefully he catches some passes, because he can do that. I'm not sure how often he will. But Gus Edwards will be involved.
Down, that's good for him. With Bateman going down, they might rely on Dobbins to kind of split out every now and again, because he can do that. And one thing that people kind of lose, like that Ravens are a huge outlier in the amount of times they run the ball. They can support 2 running backs at 200 plus catches, or sorry, not catches, touches, rushing. Still give Lamar Jackson plenty of touches, and then like sprinkle in some more. Like they're running the ball 600 times, like, and that's like most teams like average like anywhere from like 450-ish to 550-ish. I think is probably a pretty good range, but yeah, there's a lot of rushing upside to go around there. Again, I'm not really investing in J.K. Dobbins though, because he goes a little bit too early. And Lamar Jackson doesn't really check down. Maybe he's the type of guy that I'm never really going to be on a Nick Chubb or J.K. Dobbins who purely rush the ball. That's just not the way I draft.
Yeah, no, that's all fair. I agree, and they definitely want to expand the passing game. They've said they wanted to, but when you have injuries to your top pass catchers, where you have Sammy Watkins as your number 1 right now, and I kind of like Thielen Wallace, but he's your number 2, and that's not too exciting. It's arrow through the roof for Mark Andrews easily, as he should command. Yeah, I don't think his ADP is going to climb. I really don't. But he's someone I'm legitimately going to start looking at in the 5th if with these injuries now. Someone I was a little bit more nervous about. But they're not going to be able to expand the passing game if they don't have the weapons that they drafted to expand the passing game. So I think it's more likely we see more of the same for the Ravens as opposed to the increased passing volume we might have been projecting.
Yeah, I get the sense that Hollywood Brown will be okay. You don't really want to see a guy like him like come out of camp with a soft tissue injury, but I think like a lot of people are like, well, last year was nice kind of starting the season with everyone healthy, It seems like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm not used to camp. It seems like they're being really careful with players, and it seems like coaches aren't going to push players through anything this year. Maybe that's just something like with some new science or a new kind of thought process is kind of taking it's
a longer season.
Yeah, it's a longer season too. So like load management, they might be picking up some stuff from the NBA there. But anyway, I think we're going to see week 1, maybe week 2. I think we're going to see Hollywood Brown. I think we're going to see Sammy Watkins. We're going to see Mark Andrews, and I think we're going to see Tylan Wallace. I think if anything, like Tylan Wallace gets a shot to show he's a solid rookie too, and he actually profiles really, really, really well. He had college production numbers, size comps, and similar.
He's a big guy.
Capital.
Yeah,
draft capital to Michael Gallup. They're similar size, and also he draws some comps to Tyler Boyd and Stephon Diggs. So this is like purely like number stuff, but there's a lot of numbers that line up with their college production. One of those being like their market share of how many targets they dominated or demanded from their team. So those are encouraging comps. I mean, he's definitely not your smaller kind of gadgety kind of slot guy like your Rondale Moore, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore. Him and Terrace Marshall, Tylan Wallace and Terrace Marshall are really the two like big bodied kind of more alpha Kenny Galladay type receivers in this draft. And I mean, they could hit 2 and just be massive values where they went, because I know they both went outside of day 2, I believe.
Yeah, Wallace was a 4th round pick, I believe, and in many ways he kind of handcuffed Rashad Bateman. Different players, different styles. Bateman a much better route runner, and Thielen Wallace might even be a better contested catch guy. But Wallace was a guy that that a lot of people were talking about as a day 2 pick, and he just was a little bit slow to recover from his ACL injury in his in his college year. So he still put up numbers despite if my memory serves, it was a historically fast return from that injury. But
we want to bet on rookies who had college injuries. I mean, but in your mind, you have to accept the fact that they're kind of already being like, that's already kind of baked into where you're getting them.
Yeah,
right.
No, the reason he fell discount.
The reason why he's not going drafted right now is he's kind of 5th in line on an offense that doesn't throw the ball a whole lot.
Yeah.
Now he's got plenty of opportunity, right? And we want to take bets on guys like that because I don't think his ADP is really going to rise as much as it should if he gets 8 games as kind of the wide receiver 3, maybe even 2.
And this isn't to say that you should be drafting him in redraft even. This is just someone that we're starting preseason. This is someone I want to watch. When I'm watching the Baltimore Ravens, he's going to get run time because the coaching staff wants to see. They want to see him in a game, and I want to see him as well. So that's something to watch for.
If they don't play him in like the last 2 games and we know there's no injury or anything, that's one of those signals. Like
that's a telling sign. Yeah, that's exactly what I would be looking for, and that's something that could happen. So it's something to stay tuned in. We might have time to touch on one more depth chart if you want to do that. Which one do you want to do?
Yeah, sure. Surprise me.
Oh, surprise me. I'm doing everything I can to hold back talking about Bryan Edwards beating out John Brown. But we should probably choose a.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Raiders. Let's talk about the Raiders.
Let's talk about the Raiders. All right. Now, we're going to talk about them a little bit more when we have Darren Waller in the next segment coming up. Stay tuned for that. That's going to be awesome. But Bryan Edwards was listed ahead of Henry Ruggs is the wide receiver 1. Bryan Edwards is the number 2. John Brown is not even the 3. He's the 4 behind Hunter Renfrow. Now, let's call it even a buy-sell. Are you buying that? Because I could speak all day, but I want you to get your word in before I do that.
Are we both part of the Bryan Edwards hive?
Oh, come on. We have talked about this before.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're both on board with that. Because I'm singing the good praises of Bryan Edwards, and I mean we've heard nothing but good things out of camp. Last year was concerning, right? He didn't really flash, kind of dealt with injuries all year, but like even when he was perceived healthy, like couldn't get separation. But again, maybe that's just like John Gruden has a tough time bringing rookies along, right? Henry Ruggs didn't light the world on fire. So maybe, Aguilar's gone. There's a lot of targets kind of being left behind with him. But yeah, I think go for it. I mean, John Brown's old. I mean, it's just, he might have just been brought in for depth. But I mean, Bryan Edwards is going to get a lot of run.
No, and Bryan Edwards has been the subject of plenty of John Gruden ridiculous comps, and I'm really hoping that I love Bryan Edwards. He's not Terrell Owens, but if they're going to keep calling him Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, I hope the ridiculous of that keeps his ADP down, because I'm going to paint the story of what happened with Bryan Edwards last year. Mm-hmm. Last year, he had an amazing camp. Everyone wanted him. He was the next best thing. He was going to be the number 1 for the Raiders. Oh my goodness. And then he started the year. He got the snaps. He started with let me pull it up right now, but he started with ascending snaps. He started with 77%. He had 62% in the next week, and then he got hurt in week 3. He had increasing yardage in each of those games. He was a starter right out of the gates, and then he got hurt. He missed games with a broken hand. He missed 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games pretty much. He missed the next 6 games. He returns in week 10, and Nelson Aguilar's broken out. They're not going to take Aguilar off the field. He was good. Why take him off? Yeah. So Aguilar's out there. Aguilar's commanding targets. Bryan Edwards has to work his way back in. He has to earn snaps. And something that's important to note with these tight end focused teams, with the Travis Kelce's, the George Kittles, it's very difficult to have a number 2 receiver next to on that team. There's the Aguilar. Aguilar can command his 85 targets and make do with that as a flex play. Yeah. But Waller commands it. If Bryan Edwards secures this wide receiver 1 role, which he has the physical profile to, he has the college profile, and he has everything you want on tape to me, he can be the one for this team. And that is that's a valuable role.
I think Bryan Edwards kind of makes more sense to John Gruden if you're following me. I think he kind of
he's big
naturally. He's just like, I mean, he's worked with receivers like Edwards before. I don't know that John Gruden knows what to do with Ruggs, because Ruggs is not a run wind sprints up and down the field receiver. He wasn't that at Alabama. He's take a 5-yard slant to the house guy, and he's just not getting those looks. I mean, they seem to be aware of that, and they say things like, we want to get him the ball in space. I mean, well, sure, we want to get him the ball in space, but are you prioritizing it? And I don't know that I think it's just as likely that they prioritize Brian Edwards as they do Henry Ruggs at this point, outside of Darren Waller, of course. And you're getting Brian Edwards at like what, a 6-7 round discount?
Yeah, and that's the big thing to me is Brian Edwards is undrafted. He has the chance to do, and Henry Ruggs could be productive. I don't think I really don't see the world where he's productive on for a fantasy sense. But what they're going to do with Henry Ruggs, if they're smart, is just get him the ball and hopefully he does something with it. Because if you're right, if they're just going to send him upfield, it's just wasting him. But if he's going to get the ball, he's not going to be a volume guy. Someone's still going to have to catch the 85 targets that Nelson Aguilar just vanished. And you could say Hunter Renfrow might, but Hunter Renfrow isn't special. I think Brian Edwards is a very good player. I think he's going to win this job. I think he's shown in back-to-back preseasons that he can win this job. If he's on the field, he's going to make plays. And I think we've seen Derek Carr sing his praises as well. So I think he's got the faith of his quarterback. I'm all about him. He's got the size. That's why Gruden likes him. Gruden likes him because when you think number one receiver, when you create your player in Madden, you are creating Brian Edwards standing at 6'3", 250.
Exactly, yeah.
It's exactly what you want.
With like 3 wristbands on and the orange visor, everything.
Exactly. Yeah, and then 7
like half a
different
sleeve,
biceps.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 7 different bicep muscles on each side. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I do think it's either Ruggs or Edwards. I don't know that offense can support Waller,
It can.
Edwards, and Ruggs. Because like I said, it's going to take – because they're still going to kind of be a 50-50 run pass team. I don't know that Derek Carr is good enough to distribute at a high volume efficiently. And so, but I mean, also all these guys are values. Just figure out which one you like best. And it's a good target, in my opinion. They're all values.
Yeah. No, they are. Henry Ruggs is still going the double digits. Brian Edwards is undrafted. Hunter Renfrow is undrafted if you really want to take that shot. And Darren Waller's elite, and he's in the 3rd round. If you want to grab one of those elite guys, Darren Waller is still going to see 130 targets at least and make the most of every single one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk injuries?
I think we got to talk injuries. I never want to talk injuries, but I think we have to talk injuries. So preseason is full of hype, but it's also full of these just terrible injuries. But save for Cam Akers, crossing my fingers because the games are just starting, we haven't had any huge ones yet.
It's been quiet.
Yeah, it's the nagging ones that really concern me, though. And I think we're gonna go through some of these names of these injuries, all likely to miss a week, a couple of weeks or so, and sometimes more. And I'm gonna ask you on a scale of 0 to 10. It's called 1 to 10. How worried are you? So let's start with the big name. The first one, really, Carson Wentz.
Yeah. So I put down a 6 for this. I mean, he broke like a bone in his foot, like basically fell off. So I had to go in, surgery. But him and Quentin Nelson with the same injury are like on track to be back for week 1. So the fantasy community was fade the Colts, trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, trade for Marcus Mariota, blow the whole thing up, start the rebuild to now. I mean, it looks like he's going to start week 1. So 6.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same exact way. We talked about him extensively, so we didn't really touch on him more. Now, Curtis Samuel, who's had a bit of a weird trip. He started on the COVID-19 list and then worked his way to the PUP with a groin injury. How worried are you on this?
I'm a 5 because there hasn't been any. They seem optimistic out of camp, so 5 for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll touch on it quick. Just saying, scheme-wise, it's not as much of a hurdle. It's Ron Rivera's the coach. Curtis Samuel has worked in that scheme before. They know how to use him. But he has no chemistry with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's missed a lot of time. Groin injuries, soft tissue. I'm more around a 7. We'll see how Diami Brown looks tonight, and we'll see if he can potentially threaten Curtis Samuel's role. Julio Jones, ankle.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what he does. They're getting out in front of it, which I like to see. I mean, a lot of these guys, Carson Wentz, new quarterback on a new team. Curtis Samuel, new wide receiver on a new team. Julio Jones, new wide receiver on a new team. The next 4 are all like the next 3 or so are all like that. And
that's kind of crazy, yeah.
I think we're overselling are overweighting exactly how much this chemistry means, like baller's ball,
Sure.
This is also assuming that you can develop that chemistry with someone, and it takes a specific amount of time in the preseason. So anyway, let's throw that out. I'm not worried about Julio Jones at a 3. He'll be okay.
Not worried at all. New situation, sure, but he's dealt with a nagging ankle problem for give or take. Let me check my watch. The last 10 years of his career.
Yeah.
Devonta Smith, who has dealt with a MCL sprain, he's been out for a couple of weeks, might be out for a week more.
Yeah, I just don't trust what Philly's saying. Because they seem optimistic. They just don't seem like a straight shooting organization. But I put a 3 because I think he'll be fine to end the season. Also, I'm not drafting Devonta Smith. I don't know why. I'm just not ending up with a lot of them. So 3 for me. I'm not worried about it.
Reports out of camp are that that Jalen Hurts is hyper targeting the tight ends, being Ertz and Goddard. Devonta Smith, I was interested in if he was going to see a large target share. My biggest concern for him coming out was durability. This is a little bit of a red flag for me, but like you said, if he's going as early as he's been going, I'm not really drafting him anyway.
I still
Kenny
think
Galladay.
even with the injury, I still think that even with the injury, Devonta Smith, you're going to be happy you have him in Dynasty at the end of the year.
Oh, he's a fantastic player. Yes.
Yeah.
He's
Kenny Galladay. I'm not worried about the injury as much as I am about there just hasn't been a single positive thing out of the Giants camp, other than maybe Saquon seems to be on track to play earlier in the season.
Did you see the rep that I retweeted today by any chance? It went a bit viral for Giants camp today.
Oh man,
no?
What was it?
Okay, so basically, I'll just quickly run through this. Daniel Jones in shotgun takes the snap. The center pushes the defensive tackle to the left. Left guard also takes the same exact player.
Oh man,
blitzing linebacker goes straight up the middle. They don't blow the play dead, but would have been killed. Then Daniel Jones stares at the linebacker, stares at a different linebacker, throws the ball to a would-be pick, and then the linebacker dropped it. So the Giants are a travesty. I urge everyone to find that clip. It's a great time.
Yeah.
I'm getting hands off the Galladay. This is back-to-back soft tissue injuries. I don't really want to touch it. And Saquon, I'm not as worried about. Touchdowns going to be an issue, but if Galladay's off the field, Saquon's still going to be catching plenty of balls. He's still a supreme talent. So let's move on to Darren Waller, who I alluded to before. Elite player. He's just disappeared. He has not been to the camp for 8 or 9 days now. We don't know the injury. Coaches don't have to specify it this time of year. They don't have to report on an injury report yet. But what are you thinking about Darren Waller right
now? Honestly, I probably don't change the way I view him until this goes on for another week.
A week? So you're gonna see 15 days of no practices, and then you're gonna be like, all right, that's time to move the.
What I'm saying is within that window, I expect to get some type of news that I can react to. Right now, it's all speculation, and it's certainly not a positive, right? So maybe you move Kittle in front of him. I still think it's Waller over Kittle, just from a volume perspective. But he should be fine. It is concerning that they don't want to say what the injury is. I don't know what the leverage would be there. Maybe they haven't had contact with him. Maybe there's I did see that he might be considering holding out because he is grossly underpaid because the Raiders signed him at a very good time, right before he blew up. So
and then George Kittle got extended. Travis Kelce got extended.
Yeah, could be hold out. But
it's an undisclosed injury. He was working on the side on Tuesday, but TJ Watt's holding. I think holding out as a contract thing. I don't have anything to work that off of, but that makes sense to me this time of year. They can't afford to not have Darren Waller out there. So I'm sure that I'm confident that gets rectified. If you draft Darren Waller at a discount right now, good on you. I wouldn't be worried. But DJ Chark, what are you thinking?
It's a 5. Like I said, everything I've seen says he's still on track. Probably again, none of these things are good, but no one stays 100% healthy. It's just we hear about these early.
Yeah, the big thing for me is that this being a crowded wide receiver field in a completely new offense with a new coach who has talked negatively about Chark already. I'm a little bit worried. I was worried about Chark before. About the finger, I'm not. But this is now – he's going to miss the entire preseason. and get no reps with Trevor Lawrence in games. That does matter to me when you're competing against Marvin Jones and Laviska. So I'm more around, if I'm talking about Chark as a fantasy prospect, I'm at like a 7, an 8. I have yet to draft him or look to draft him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So rapid fire these last two, and then we'll just talk about the group as a whole. But Cortland Sutton, I think you and I are a little bit more worried about him with his ACL. There's been clips of him kind of maybe being a little hesitant on cuts, so I'm an 8.
Yeah, I've seen him improve a little bit, but I think Jerry Jeudy's great. The quarterback situation is still murky. Depends on where he goes in drafts. He has the upside, but the offense is just not good enough.
And then
Tariq Cohen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tariq Cohen, who's dealt with the same ACL injury from last year. I'm at about a 9. He's still not out there. He needs to be out there because Dave Montgomery's going to keep getting those reps, and I don't think Tariq Cohen's going to be right for the opener.
Yeah, and they have Damian Williams as kind of an insurance policy, so I'm worried. I mean, maybe he gets healthy and gets in there, but I don't think you want to be drafting him. And then DeAndre Swift, he's an interesting one. I'm a little worried because he was right there where I was like kind of into drafting him, even though I don't really draft running backs where he goes. But this is not. He was a shaky prospect at best for me, but this groin kind of put him out of my radar. So I said 5, but I'm not really drafting him.
I'm not too concerned yet. Jamar Jefferson's also out, so it's been Jamal Williams getting the brunt of the work, and Jamal Williams will be involved. I still have faith that Swift will get the majority of the passing work in a very open receiving game. So that'll be something to watch if we can get back out there in the preseason, because I need to see him in the preseason. You want to quickly touch on the Dallas injuries?
Yeah, we're not worried about Amari or Dak right now. The Dak stuff it's a little weird, but I don't think it's any concern right now.
I'm not concerned at all yet. But it's the shoulder. The ankle's fine. That was my bigger concern. Him getting a second MRI, I don't think that's earth-shattering news. I think that's them just getting an update on their $160 million quarterback. And we still have 3-4 weeks. I think Dak Prescott will be right for the opener, and Amari Cooper is already getting there. So I'm still all in on Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, probably not Gallup, but
It's not really time to panic on anybody yet. I didn't put a lot of high numbers there just because there's a lot, unless you're a Cam Akers owner, right? Like that's the only significant injury that we know definitively, like someone's going to lose time, right? These injuries are all like not what you want to see from players in the preseason. But I will say that basically every single person on this list outside of Julio Jones and Darren Waller, I was kind of not targeting anyway, and this injury is just kind of another nail in the coffin for me. Like these are pretty hard avoids overall. Maybe if Samuel comes back, he comes back on my radar, but I'm not going to try and get out in front of ADP on a lot of these guys is what I'm saying.
Yeah. The big question is how far the injury pushes down, and I tend not to buy the injury dip. But honestly, it's everything you just said. I'm not screaming the alarm. I'm not calling for help on this yet, but it's definitely something to watch for. But we got the preseason starting up right now. We got the 2 games just kicked off, so I'm eager to watch them go at it. So let's just call it a short yardage again. This was fun. I hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation, Nick. This was
thank you.
Hot on my end, cool on your end, but thank you for tuning in, everyone. You can follow me at Michael Sicoli. You can follow Nick at Run the Sims, and you can follow For Fantasy Sake at For Fantasy Sake right on Twitter. You can find us very easily. We're all great follows. I can give you all the Brian Edwards you want. He can give you all the stats you want, and you can find all of our content at For Fantasy Sake. So I really encourage everyone to check it out. Any final thoughts?
Hit the merch store.
Hit the merch store, something I always forget to say. All right. See you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.